Hello, my name is Omar Abisad. It's November 10th, Saturday, 2018, 2:29 p.m. in Toronto. So I'm going to talk about community targeting and experimentation. So I had made a reference in another YouTube video about Rahini Besasar's case and her claim to have been experimented on. While I believe her claim that she was being experimented on, I don't subscribe to her claims of who's doing it. Having said that, keeping in mind, if she was hearing voices, then she was probably repeating what the voices were saying to her. And what these voices presumably were saying to her wasn't necessarily true. So, as to her claim that certain parties are doing it, agencies are doing it, I don't believe that. However, I do believe that experiments are being run by all kinds of criminals. In my case, I believe that the experiments are being run by traffickers. And one of the experiments being run is to recruit, train, and traffic sex slaves. And in order to do that, they used a rumor mill and created a file through 24-hour surveillance. And it created a file that depicted me, number one, as a prostitute, which I never was, not a prostitute now, and never will be. And they spread the rumors through using the loopholes under the Mental Health Act that I am one and I'm mentally ill, and flagging me as a prostitute, being monitored throughout the province, monitored by helicopter, monitored by the community, which means I'm being mobbed, so stalked. And this is all part of experimentation. So in my case, I suspect, strongly so, that the experiment is to turn me into a sex slave. So all the elements of that experiment, in my case, judging from the harassing comments I hear, all the elements of this experiment is in place in my case. The rumor mills, the propaganda campaign to depict me as a prostitute, the false allegations that I am one, and the false evidence, quote unquote, that presumably the police have that makes it absolute that I used to be a prostitute. And there was an escort service that was being run by, certainly not me, so I don't know by who. Passing me around, setting it up in such a way, setting up the monitoring in such a way that I'm passed around. They had a whole lot of monitors, a lot of men of various ethnic background who are taking turns to monitor me. Then the traffickers use that cover to remotely surveil and to remotely rape using porn technology that's used on remote porn sites. That's haptic touch. And this is technology, new technologies that's being developed and used on porn sites, experimented with, where the two people do not have to physically meet or touch. You can have virtual sex through haptic technology, where sound waves are bounced off your body, and the person who is doing the act have sensors, like a bodysuit with sensors that receives the signals from your body that bounces back from the sound waves. So you get a sense of touch of the person's skin. It imitates the real skin, so it feels like you're touching the person, and it's real, because the person on the other side is actually feeling the touch, because the waves are bounced off the skin, and the person on the receiving side is receiving the signals of those touch. So he is getting the sensation of touching the person. So if you were to do this between the legs and the breast, then the person is virtually remotely harassing you sexually. And if this technology is invasive, invading mouth, nose, eyes, genitals, this is rape. And it's the same as physical rape. The person on the other side is a rapist when it's not done with consent. And of course, there is no consent in this case, in my case. So this is experimentation being carried out by traffickers, not by the government, not by any government agencies, not by the cops necessarily. Even though for this to be carried out, there has to be infiltration of the police force, and some of the policemen and women have to be paid off to do it. As in any other organization, there are corrupt members in any organization. So I strongly suspect it's not the police that's running it, but there are some police people, men and women, who are involved in the experimentation and covering it up. So this is one point I wanted to make. So while I draw the parallel, the other point, while I draw the parallel between myself and Ms. Bessessard, the experiments are different. She's claiming that she's hearing voices and so on. So that probably was an experiment being done on her. So if an experiment is being done on her, or many experiments were being done on her throughout the years, then the framework would have to be set up around her to control her, to run the experiment, and to get the feedback. And then using the feedback to change the template in order to run the experiment and take the experiment to the other step. So you need that loop. You need the surveillance set up. You need a place to carry out the experiments. You need feedback from the experiment, and you need a way to take the feedback and put it back into the template, update the template, and upgrade, I should say, the experiment to the other level. And this is a step-by-step process. Experimentees, illegal experimentees, are not intended to survive the process, because in the process of experimenting with the person, as I just described, a lot of illegal activity is done by a lot of people. They are rapists, they're murderers, people. Some of the experiments is actually attempted murder. There is all sorts of other stalking, stealing, just set up the person, like the probes would steal and say the target has did it, and so on. So there's a lot of illegal activity that's carried out, and a lot of violations against the target is being done by a lot of people. And in my case, the monitors on the account are the managers who are driving these illegal activities and these experiments. So the monitors don't want the target to survive at the end of the experiment. So I'm suspecting that each monitor tries at the end of his experiment, his or her experiment, to dispose of the target, either by killing the target or by having the target mentally committed, disposing of them mentally to destroy their credibility. And I think in my case, this has happened. Since I worked 5 years ago with a company that I suspect the person pulled me out of the system. First of all, he knew I was flagged. Somebody infiltrated him and told him about the flag. And then he decided, or somebody in the company decided to pull me out of the system and surveil me in the company. And then in order to put me back into the system, he had to put a report in. And in the report, he started a process of criminalization, stating that he predicated that I was a prostitute. Of course, I wasn't. and the other monitors that came along after him, a lot of Muslim monitors, perfect strangers. They piggybacked on it and progressively artificially criminalized me by filing criminal reports about things that I didn't do, framed me, set me up, instigated situations, incited anger, and a lot of lies, just out and out lies. And the use of lasers and tasers, because these criminals would use gangs who have tasers and lasers that they can buy in the black market, just like you can buy a gun, you can buy a taser. Same idea. And these people will go follow you around and taser you on your legs, on your ankles, on your knees as you walk to make you fall, and so on, in your eyes. So this is all part of the experiment, number one, and number two, to control you. And number three, to intimidate you into not talking, because if you talk, the gangs will increase the torture. So this is all experimentation. The idea of being flagged without due process over and over again, and outsourcing the monitoring without giving due process, and having the person in the system for years and years and years without giving due process, and using the information to charge the person but not giving due process. This is all part of experimentation. Another experiment would be, other than the trafficking experiment and driving and operating a sex slave ring, another experiment would be not artificial criminalization, although that's part of it, but false imprisonment. False imprisonment. In order to falsely imprison somebody, you have to artificially criminalize them. And false imprisonment, by that term, I mean you're treated like a prisoner and a criminal, number one. And number two, you're tortured every time you try to leave your home, basically. As soon as you open the door, a neighbor would open theirs and stalk you and monitor you and look at you in order to make a report, because they're collecting information, part of the experiment. So you would be timed in and out of your home. You'll be harassed with comments like you're a target, which I am, by neighbors passing my door. You're a whore, you're a target, and all these insults are said as they pass my door. But they report that I'm yelling at them when they pass the door. First of all, I don't spend my day looking out the peephole on my door to see who's passing it. Normally, you'd never know that somebody's at the door unless they start talking really loudly. So the only way I would know that they are at the door is if they make nasty comments loudly. So they are harassing me. But they turn it around and say I'm harassing them when like I'm doing a blog right now, or I may verbalize something, a thought, an idea, because I blog right as I do right now on ad lib. I practice my ad libbing. If I do that, they would say, "Oh, she's talking to herself," or the remarks she's making is intended for me standing at the door listening to her with a recorder in my hand. My hand being, let me say that, by my hand I mean the person listening at the door. So let me say that again. So the person listening at the door would call the cops and say she's talking to herself loudly, and the person would have a recorder in his or her hand. In other words, she's spying on me. And I'm saying she because I'm suspecting one of the neighbor who's doing this on a consistent basis. The person, this unit whole occupant and the family is subcontracting from all the names on the account. So it doesn't matter who put their name on the account. This person, and most likely is being paid to do it, is subcontracting. So consistently this one unit occupant or occupants are stalking and harassing. And they are the ones who are actually working with the cops, calling the cops and lying, saying, "Oh, she sounds crazy," and whatever she's doing, acting strange, She's talking to herself because, she's supposed to be alone, or she has a man with her. Who is she talking to? These are the things that they lie about. Anyway, so that's about experimentation, and it's been 15 minutes. Wow, that went by really fast. So, again, the tweets that I did yesterday, I don't think I posted a whole lot, but I checked my account. It doesn't seem to have any tweets there that wasn't supposed to be there. If I tweet anything today, that'd be me. Okay, so I'll just stop talking, and we'll talk to you another time. It's going on 16 minutes. Talk to you another time.